Welcome to the second episode of the story behind the story of the murder of Selena Quintanilla. We have here María Celeste Arrarás, who we've already shown you in the first episode is the authority on this case. And today we're going to be talking about that fateful day, that day the tragedy happened, the day that Selena got shot, the day that Selena died, and the day that María Celeste's career essentially changed forever. So María Celeste, welcome back.
Thank you. I'll never forget that March 31st, 1995. And yes, my career changed, but it didn't change right away. It took a long time. It's not like that day anything miraculous happened.
From day to the
Yeah,
right.
and again, I was very established back then, but it changed in the sense that I was able to demonstrate that I was a very serious journalist that could do very thorough work.
Did you have an opportunity prior to that to dive into a case like this?
I've had many cases that I got into pretty much, but not at this level. No,
Right. So where were you precisely when you found out that Selena was shot?
We heard somebody scream, Selena has been shot. Somebody screamed that. And when that happened, we originally thought at the very beginning that they were referring to Selena, not Selena. Selena was a psychic that lived in Miami.
Gotcha.
And the reason why we were thinking that is because like 2 weeks before, another psychic had been killed. So we figured, oh my God, there's like a serial
killer.
Yeah, of psychics. So we already started with the conspiracy theory. And then somebody said, no, it's not Selena, it's Selena, the Tex-Mex queen. And we're like in shock when we heard that.
Wow. What was going on through your head at that moment?
Well, the first thing I thought was, how bad is it? Mm-hmm. Where did it happen? Why? Who did it? We didn't have any details at the very beginning, except she was shot. And then we started to call everybody in Corpus Christi that we knew, that we had all the contacts there to start finding out what was going on. And soon after, little details started to come out. She had been shot and she was not in very good condition.
Now, how did you know that what you were reporting was true?
Well,
things were happening so quickly.
Absolutely, because we had people. We have a correspondent in Corpus that immediately went to the motel where she had been shot.
Okay.
And then once that happened, everything that we were getting was firsthand from her being on the scene.
And I also, from the book, you actually found out that she died while you were on camera, correct? While you were on air.
Yes, because we realized that the public was very thirsty for details in view of what had happened. So we ran to the control room, we ran to the studio, and we were starting to give an update on what we already had said before. We just basically a little bit more details, but it was like a summary of what we knew up till then. And then when I was talking about she was injured, she's in the hospital, then on the IFB, my producer said she's dead. So I realized that they had some information that I was not acquainted with, and that this is something that I needed to say right there and then. So when I said it, it was very, very hard.
Oh my God, I got the chills. I can't imagine that happening, especially on air. I mean, at the moment.
Yeah, especially because this was a 23-year-old. This is a girl that was just starting to spread her wings. She had just won a Grammy. And she represented I would say the dreams of so many of us Hispanics that wanted to make it, and so it was very sad when I had to say the news.
Now, I've heard that you actually met Selena. You met her once, right? And you talked to her for like 30 minutes.
I met her like 3 weeks before she was killed.
Wow, okay.
I was preparing for my TV show that was live every day, and she was in the same studio. She was in the studio next door. She was being interviewed by some other program, and she was doing her makeup right next to me. And she was in Miami because there was a street festival that is very famous every year here, like Ayocho.
Right.
And this is incredible, she was doing the warm-up concert for the opening act, which was Thalia.
Gotcha.
So she was not even that well known back
then
in the East Coast.
Yeah, she was the opening act,
She
right?
was the opening act. So she was there, very simple, just promoting what she was going to be doing.
What did you think of her?
She was very, very charismatic, very, very friendly, and very open with everything. She had a beautiful laugh. I remember she used to laugh, and it was like gargling, laughter.
Right,
Yeah.
Contagious almost,
Contagious,
right? Yeah, for sure. Tragedies happen all the time, crimes happen all the time, right? But in this
They don't take off
specific
like
one,
this one.
right, exactly. This one took off, as you're saying. When did you realize, my gosh, this is more than just this story?
I think the next day, because the next day, the ratings started to come in, and all of a sudden, look, I get goosebumps.
Right.
All of a sudden, all the markets are going like up, up, up. Everybody wants to know about what happened. I really get goosebumps.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
over,
of course.
because this was like a phenomenon. We saw it happen in front of our eyes. We saw how the ratings started going up, and we realized that this story, for whatever reasons, was really taking off with the public.
Now, were you a mom already, or?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't?
I wasn't.
You weren't. Okay, so when did you, because look, as a journalist, sometimes you've got to go in there a little bit harsh, right? Because you've got to get the facts out there, you've got to get the, the information, and sometimes you maybe lose a little bit of that human side, that human touch, right? How did you balance that? Giving the news, but also being a human.
Well, being a human, it impacted me. I didn't have to be a mother, but it impacted me because she was so young. I mean,
Right.
she was not a lot older than I mean, younger than I was. So it was like a friend got killed.
Right.
And especially because I remember her. I remember a few weeks before, I had just given the news that she had won the Grammy. And a lot of people, when she won the Grammy, were saying, "Who is she? Where is she from?" And that's when we first really heard about her.
Right.
And then after she's killed, I started watching international news. And in Japan, they were reporting her death.
Of course.
And in the BBC in London, everywhere. So it became like a month of mourning, I would say. So in the process, the networks realized that this is a story that everybody wanted to hear about. And precisely because nobody knew so much about her, there was so much for us to, investigate.
Right.
And that's how it happened. And everybody wanted to have more about Selena. And every time we would do a TV show, the ratings, it would break records. We couldn't believe it. It was like, we would look at the numbers and we'd say, this cannot be.
It was a phenomenon.
It was.
Okay, so going back to, you're now a mom, right? A mom of 3.
Yes.
Do you think you would have treated this differently on air or your investigation, as a mom?
No, I would have treated it exactly the same way because we, as journalists, we're trained
Right.
to act a certain way. Not act, but to behave and conduct ourselves in a very professional manner, objective and serious. And I would have done that no matter what what was going on in my personal life. We're trained like I would say, like the doctor in an emergency room.
Right, that's true.
If you have a patient and he's dying, you don't stop and say, "Oh my God, I feel so sorry for you."
That's true, yeah.
You basically, follow your I guess your training, and then you act in a very specific manner, and you say the information as you hear it in a very calm, manner, objective, so the public doesn't become, panicked.
Right.
And that's what we did. And then, of course, at the end, you suffer like anybody else.
Of course.
But when that is happening, when you're in the ER, you have to handle things differently, otherwise your patient dies.
Correct.
And the same thing happens with us when we're on the air giving the news.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and if anyone's a professional, obviously it would be you for sure. Now, your kids are grown now, right? But Selena's music has been generational. It's gone, and kids nowadays, they're 4 years old singing Selena songs,
Yes.
right? Did your kids ever ask you about the investigation at all or about the book, knowing that this has been such a big part of your life?
Well, they're very excited about the miniseries that is based on the book. They're very TV oriented. So they're excited about that. And they also want to know about that part of my life that is portrayed in this miniseries because they were not there. So they want to know what was going on when I wrote the book. At the time I was with their father and we were engaged to get married and we were, going through some issues because I was so devoted to this trial that I had no time for him. Imagine I had my regular show that was 8 hours of work, and then when I finished, every night I would go home plus the weekends writing the book and investigating. So it was very tough for us, but obviously, we ended up getting married and having the kids, so that worked.
So there it goes, right? That worked. Did you ever want to give up on the investigation?
No.
Never.
No, I wanted to do a good job. I always wanted to be a writer, but I always thought I'm going to retire. When I retired, I'll become a writer in a farm full of animals, looking at the beautiful landscape, and I'll be inspired. I never realized I was going to do a book so early on in my life.
Of course.
So when I got the opportunity, because it was offered to me, I didn't go looking for that opportunity. It was the publisher came to me and asked me if I wanted to do it, and I had all the information. So for me, it was easy to say yes.
Right.
But I had never written a book, so it was like a challenge in that sense. And the timing, I had to write the book in 2 months. It was
2
tough.
months?
In 2 months.
You put yourself that timeline, or was the publisher?
Oh, the publisher, of course.
Yes, of course.
I would have never done that to myself.
So I was like, what are you doing to yourself?
I'm not crazy, no.
Now, going back to the newsroom, right? You get the information, you get on camera, you're revealing this news, right? And obviously the authoritative figure of like being to be able to provide this news to the audience that is obviously here listening to you and believing everything that you're saying. in today's world, it's very different, right? We have hoaxes all the time about celebrity deaths. We have social media with, fake news all the time on it, right? How would this have been handled today?
The same way, because the journalists are the same. It's very unfair what's happening today. This whole fake news thing. Of course, there's some fake news in the social media,
right,
and things that are out there. But when you have a newscast, all we do all day long is corroborate information and investigate and really go very deeply to make sure that we're saying the right information. The 99.9% of journalists are that way.
Yes.
And it's unfair what's going on with the fake news.
Agreed. Good point.
Defamation
I like that.
Campaign.
Yes, absolutely. You're completely right about that. Now, when it comes down to, what you just said, despite all of that, do you wish you would have done anything differently as far as spreading the news or even in your investigation?
No, because every single day that I was investigating, I was very responsible about what I was doing. I realized that this was a tragedy. I realized that this was a young girl that was killed unfairly in the most important moment in her life, and I had to be fair to her. Number one. As a matter of fact, when I wrote the book, I had her picture in my desk, and I was playing her music at all times, just to stay tuned in with my first responsibility, which was to make justice in this investigation to her, especially because I was already in communication with the murderer about trying to get an interview with her. And the murderer was very manipulative and she could be very charming. So I didn't want to, fall under the spell of for the wrong reasons,
right.
So I said, no, let me stay focused. And this is the victim, this is a murderer. And I just want to talk to the murderer to make sure that we hear certain things that we need to learn about. But not to write something given the version of the murderer. I wouldn't do that. This is not the version. The book is not the version of Yolanda Saldívar, by no means.
Right. And we're going to be touching on that conversation and that interview that you had with Yolanda Saldívar in the next episode, because I definitely want to dive into that completely. I saw the entire interview, and to say that it's fascinating and creepy and just, I guess, intriguing all at the same time.
A tough interview.
And I was looking at it and I was like, I don't know how I would have handled that, being you in that situation. And I thought that, my kudos to you, hats off to you completely. And if anyone could have handled that, it was absolutely you, without a doubt.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. So we'll be taking a look at that in the next episode. Going back to the investigation, right? As far as like you doing your research, right? And your homework on this. You took this from reporting this for, like you said, a month of mourning, right? Into then on your own time taking this investigation even further, right? Did it ever overtake, your professional or personal career?
It overtook my personal life, certainly, because I had no time to do anything else, and I was getting very little sleep. I was working many hours. I had to do a TV show daily, so I had to try to concentrate. But I was always tired. It was 8 hours of regular job, my TV show, and then 8 hours writing, and then very little sleep and very little time for my personal relationships. Of course. So it was very tough at every level. But I always kept. My north was always that this is temporary. I'm going to survive this because it's temporary, and I did, and it's something that I don't regret.
So it's no secret that there was a certain point that the family wasn't too keen on you writing this book. So tell us about that.
Well, I respect their opinion because they're a grieving family. You never recuperate from such a loss, but rest assured, this is a book that is serious, that is based on facts, and is done always looking at the memory of Selena and respectful to her memory. She's so beloved by our community that I would never do anything that would raise the most minimum flag about her reputation or who she was. She was a victim, and this is very clear. And nothing that Yolanda Saldívar could say about an alleged secret would justify what she did. That's very important.
Right.
But also, journalists, we write about investigations that we conduct on high-profile cases such as this one throughout history that has happened. So this is not a novelty. This is something that happens all the time with the Kennedys, Lincoln, James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, everybody. There's a high-profile death or murder, like in this case. We try to get down to what actually happened.
And your objective is to share the news, share the truth.
No, exactly. exactly, and to throw light on why did we lose her? Why did something so unfair happen?
Right.
What were the circumstances so that we can prevent that in the future from happening to somebody else?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Maria Celeste, thank you so much for sharing about that day. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
On the next episode, we're going to be taking a look and discussing with Maria Celeste about her one-on-one interview with Yolanda Saldívar. That's definitely something you don't want to miss.
Bueno, ya saben,
¿Qué?
si les gusta lo que ven aquí presente,
Estamos lindos.
suscríbanse.
Pero
¿no?
ya les hemos dicho tantas veces,
Tantas
suscríbanse.
veces. Aparte es que es gratis. ¿Qué más
Claro.
quieren? Hoy en día nada es gratis. pero
Tantas
suscríbanse
veces
sí.
que le hemos dicho. Por favor, suscríbanse.
Suscríbanse.
Mira, nos lo puedo decir bien.
Suscríbanse.